What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back for another Game of Thrones Season 8 prediction video. Today I want to revisit an old topic that I discussed in a video several months ago, but before we get started, I have to thank the sponsor of today's video. Today I want to talk about the possibility of Bran Stark warging a dragon, specifically Viserion, who is now under the Night King's control. I made a video about this topic all the way back in February, but not too many people actually saw that video, and I'm going to be the first to admit that video was trash. But I want to preface this by saying I'm not sure that any of this will happen, but like most things in this story, I think there is a chance that it could happen. Now that the Night King has control of a dragon, Jon and Dany are going to need all the help that they can get in order to take down Viserion by any means possible. I think there is a very good chance that Bran Stark can help them in some way. We already know that Bran Stark is a very powerful warg, which gives him the ability to enter the mind of an animal and control its actions, but we aren't exactly sure about everything that he can warg. He may or may not have limits to the animals that he can warg, but we do know that it is extremely hard to warg into the mind of another human. Although it was rarely attempted because it's pretty much forbidden, but Bran was able to do this with Hodor when he was still just a little boy. And he was able to do it with his first try. Bran did this when he barely had any knowledge of what he was capable of. Now you might be asking yourself, why am I bringing this up? What does warging Hodor have to do with warging a dragon? Well, I think this goes to show just how powerful of a warg Bran can be. I think this gave us our first look at the potential that Bran had. Some people say the only reason Bran was able to warg Hodor was because he had a mental disability, but that's not entirely true. When they showed us the flashback, we learned that Hodor was once a normal kid just like everybody else. His mind was completely functionable before Bran warged into him as a kid. The only reason why Hodor became disabled the way he was is because of what he saw. I think Hodor basically suffered from shock and extreme PTSD because he saw and knew what he was going to have to do for Bran later. He lived most of his life knowing he was going to have to sacrifice himself, but I think this could have been sort of like a stepping stone for what Bran was going to be able to do. Dragons might be smarter than most animals, but I don't think any of the dragons were smarter than Hodor was at the time that Bran warged into him. In my opinion, I think it was more complex to enter the mind of Hodor than it would be a dragon. Bran started warging at a very young age before he knew what he was fully capable of, and as the story progresses, Bran's powers progress more and more too. Bran's powers continue to get stronger as he learns more about himself, and Season 8 is going to be the final season of Game of Thrones, which means this last season we're going to see Bran at the height of his powers. His powers are about to reach their full potential in this last season, and I think this makes him almost capable of doing anything, and warging anything that he wants. Bran isn't just the most powerful warg we have ever seen, but he will be the most powerful greenseer we have ever seen too. Bran is now the three-eyed raven, but before he became the new three-eyed raven, the old one said something that was always very interesting, and it's one of the most famous quotes from the show.
Going to help me walk again?
You'll never walk again. But you will fly.
He said, "You will never walk again, but you will fly." The old three-eyed raven's real name was Brynden Rivers. He was a bastard Targaryen who knew that the dragons were back in the world. I think when he told Bran he would never walk again, but he would fly, maybe he knew that one day Bran would have to warg into a dragon. Now some say he just said this because he knew Bran would be warging ravens, but I think there is a chance that it could have been more than that. Bran did have a vision of a dragon flying over King's Landing, and this may have been Bran having a vision of himself warging this dragon and flying over King's Landing. I think that would make things much more interesting in my opinion. Jojen Reed also said something very interesting to Bran once, and I want you to read this quote because I thought this was very telling. Bran asked Jojen if he was a greenseer, and that's when Jojen said, "No, I'm only a boy who dreams." He then said the greenseers were more than that. They were all wargs as well, as you are, and the greatest of them all could wear the skins of any beast that flies or swims or crawls. I think that quote is fascinating because Jojen told Bran that he was a warg and the greatest of them all can wear the skins of any beast that flies. Bran has become the greatest warg and greenseer of them all. He could actually warg into another human being, so I think Bran should be able to warg any beast that flies or swims or crawls too. Now think about that term beast. If Bran was only meant to warg a raven or a crow, you wouldn't call one of them a beast, would you? When I think of a flying beast, the first thing that comes to my mind is a dragon, and I'm not the only one who considered them to be a beast. Do you remember what Jon Snow called them when he met and petted Drogon?
They're beautiful, aren't they?
Wasn't the word I was thinking of, but yes, they are. Gorgeous beasts.
Even Jon thinks they're beasts. If Bran is the greatest warg of them all, then he should be able to warg this flying beast if he would focus enough. I do have another piece of evidence that I think most of you will find interesting as well, and this comes from the man himself, George R.R. Martin, the creator of this wonderful story.
This one's for the nerds. So Dan Foley 182 in the UK asks, is it possible to warg into a dragon?
Well, we'll have to see about that, won't we?
I think that is very intriguing because George did not say no. If you have watched other interviews with George R.R. Martin, then you know he has no problem shutting down some of the fans' questions. I have seen people ask him questions before and he had no problem cutting the subtlety and just telling them no, but this time when he was asked if someone will warg a dragon, he said, I guess we're gonna have to wait and see. He created a character that can control animals, and the greatest one in this story in my opinion is one of the dragons, so I think it would be incredible if one day Bran warged one of the dragons. But of course this is a little bit more complicated now that the Night King is already controlling it with his mind. The Night King is already tapped into Viserion and that's how he is getting him to act on his commands, but we have already seen examples of Bran and the Night King battle each other in mental warfare. This great war could end with a battle of the minds between Bran and the Night King. Bran went out spying beyond the wall, and when the Night King looked up at the birds, it made Bran snap out of his warging, which I think just goes to show you how connected these two actually are. In Season 6, Bran went into the weirwood net by himself, and the Night King was there waiting for him. They cross paths inside of the weirwood net, which makes it pretty obvious that the Night King has similar powers to Bran too. And considering the Night King was created by the Children of the Forest while he was tied down to a weirwood tree, it does make a lot of sense. I think the Night King was able to do this by basically tuning into the same frequency that Bran was on, kind of like tuning into a radio station. Bran tapped into the weirwood on the same frequency that the Night King was on, and this allowed the Night King to reach out and touch him. Now we need Bran to counteract the Night King's abilities. Bran needs to tap into his frequency and take control of him or his army, including Viserion. I think if Bran can tune into the same station the Night King is on, then this is possible. And I'm not really sure if that analogy is making any sense, but hopefully you know what I mean. Or maybe I'm just talking out of my ass. And if I am, I'm sure some of you will have no problem letting me know down in the comment section. This certainly isn't a new theory by any means, but I always enjoy exploring some of the possibilities within this story and show. I figured I would just give my 2 cents on this topic and hopefully provide a little bit of evidence that you may have not seen or heard before. You may not agree with anything I said, but hopefully you still enjoyed this video nonetheless. Either way, I still want to thank you all for stopping by and watching today's video. I really do appreciate that. Also, I just want to let you know I will be doing a giveaway in my next video just to show my appreciation to the subscribers. If you are subscribed to this channel, then you will be automatically entered into the giveaway. I will announce what the prize is in the next video, so make sure you come back for that one. And one last thing before I go, I have to thank all of my supporters on Patreon too. Your generosity truly means a lot to me, and I cannot thank you all enough for that. I hope everybody has a great day. I will see you down in the comment section. Bye.